I'm Art Kramer, if you don't know me. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our special guest today, Chancellor Phyllis Wise, Provost Ilesanmi Adesida, Adi. Sorry, Adi. You're going to have to give me some practice. I'm going to call you Adi, yes, which is what I always call you. Vice Chancellor for Research, Peter Schiffer, University of Illinois President Emeritus Stan Ikenberry, Chancellor Emeritus Mort Weir, Beckman Founding Director Ted Brown, and former directors Jiri Jonas, Pierre, Wiltzius, and Tamir, Basar. In addition, we have the pleasure of welcoming guests from the Beckman Foundation Board, which include Jackie Durrance, Jerry Galwis, Bill May, and Larry Klein. Thank you for joining us today. It is because of the generosity of Arnold Beckman and his wife Mabel that we are here today. 30 years ago, Arnold, a University of Illinois alum, and his wife Mabel were approached by the University of Illinois administrators, and I learned a little bit more about this last night, with a plan for a research institute that would span what was seen as an insurmountable divide, mainly the north and south halves of campus, dissected by what may just appear to be a traffic nuisance today, Green Street. As those of us who have been here for many years know, the north end of campus is home to engineering and technology, and the south end of campus houses not only our historic agricultural college, but also colleges of liberal arts and sciences, fine and applied arts, applied health science, and law. The plan for the Research Institute, put forward by Ted Brown, Mort Weir, Bill Greeno, Carl Hess, and others, was to bring these diverse and culturally disparate fields together under one roof to provide a place where interdisciplinary research could be undertaken and thrive. In the late 1980s, the Beckman's $40 million contribution, at the time the largest private donation from an individual to a public university, was, as they say, a game changer, and has continued to be. I'm pretty sure that Arnold and Mabel didn't really know how the gift would impact not only this campus, but also the entire nation and world. We've been able to bring together people from diverse fields across campus to conduct research in our main research themes of biological intelligence, human-computer intelligent interaction, integrative imaging, and the molecular and electronic nanostructures. Because of continued support from the Beckman Foundation, we've been able to provide the best tools for researchers across the campus and beyond in our facilities, including the Biomedical Imaging Center, the Illinois Simulator Lab, and the Imaging Technology Group, which includes both the microscopy suite and our visualization lab. Because of the Beckman Institute, researchers at the University of Illinois have become leaders in the field, ranging from neuroscience and speech and hearing science to imaging science, materials science, and bio and nanotechnology. Our researchers have discovered that your brain can change throughout your lifespan, and exercise can improve, and experience can improve physical and mental health. We've been on the leading edge of technological advances in the biological and materials imaging, health monitoring, and drug delivery. And we've discovered in the past year how biological processes, including the HIV virus, function and how ribosomes assemble themselves. Today, we celebrate not only Arnold and Mabel Beckman, but their legacy that has enabled Beckman researchers, staff, and students to lead the world in interdisciplinary collaborative research that has successfully bridged the north and south divide on campus. We celebrate those who have contributed in many and various ways to create the success of the Institute, and we look eagerly at those around us today, especially the younger folks in the audience, who continue to contribute and will continue to innovate and excel in the fields that have yet to be discovered. Welcome to the Beckman Institute. I'm also going to be the MC today, and I'm going to introduce our speakers for this morning's session, and then later on the movie that comes to us about Arnold Beckman's life from the Beckman Foundation. And the first speaker I'd like to introduce is our Chancellor, Phyllis Wise. Dr. Wise was appointed Chancellor at the University of Illinois in 2011, and prior to this appointment, she was Interim President of the University of Washington in 2010 and 2011. Her research concerns women's health and gender-based biology, and when Phyllis came here, I said, we have a lab for you here. I'm still waiting. We still have a lab for you. Okay. She has been particularly interested in whether hormones influence brains of women and men during development, adulthood, and aging. Phyllis.
Thank you so much, Art, for that lovely introduction, and thank you all for being here today at this wonderful 25th birthday party. You know, the gift that allowed the Beckman Institute to be founded here at the University of Illinois was truly one of those transformational gifts, and we use the word almost too frequently for it to really have meaning, but it really did change the course of the University of Illinois. The Institute, particularly with its scholarly conceptualization, but also with the building, changed the course and the way we think at Illinois. It was and remains a huge gift. It was $40 million at a time when $40 million was unheard of in public higher education. I think it was probably one of the very first, if not the first gift, given by a private donor to a public research university. So it was really the domain of only Ivy Leagues and private universities to receive gifts like this. So as Art just described, the traffic nuisance of Green Street, actually that interdisciplinary research that went on because of the Beckman Institute crossed that boundary and made the university much more collaborative and much more comprehensive. It opened the doors to an entirely new kind of partnership with our state, one that leveraged their support with matching investments for our mission. But there was nothing routine about it then, and there's nothing routine about it now. However, I have to say the Beckman Institute has become the model for what we are doing now with the IGB and also with the IC, the newest Institute for Sustainability, Energy, and the Environment. And it is because of the kind of research and the kind of collaborations and the kind of teams that have been developed through the Beckman Institute that we think this is routine here at Illinois. So welcome, everybody, for this wonderful anniversary, and I look forward to participating with you for the rest of the day.
Our next speaker this morning is Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs and Provost, Adesida. Adi is before becoming provost in 2012, I had the pleasure of working with Adi when he was the Dean of the College of Engineering, and I think we had many spirited conversations, and I hope we keep having many spirited conversations. When the Beckman was founded in 1989, both Adi and I were younger faculty members. I don't see any gray hair. I got plenty. Welcome.
Thanks, Art. Good morning. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Thank you very much. As Art said, I was here. I was here when the holes were dug in the ground, and I was here when the building was opened, when the Beckman Institute opened its doors to all of us. I actually had an office on the third floor before. I don't know whether I was kicked out or I went out by myself, but I don't have an office here anymore. I can attest to what Chancellor Weiss and Art said. This was a game changer, really. It was a game changer on our campus, for our state, for the nation, and for the world. I know sometimes we throw all these big words around, but for the Beckman Institute, this is not an exaggeration. The Chancellor talked about how it forever changed our ideas of the possibilities offered by public-private partnerships. But it also altered our ideas of what grand multidisciplinary scholarship might look like, who it might involve, and where the results could carry us all. The Beckmans gift was generous and gave financial capacity to build this institute. But it was their vision and their willingness to allow us to put that vision into action based on our own institutional culture, and to let the faculty who joined drive the research directions that allow the unmatched capacity for discovery we equate today with the Beckman Institute. And it is an institute that can only be possible here at Illinois. We believe that sincerely. It is critical. The Beckman Institute and the accomplishments of these past 25 years could only happen at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. The Beckman Institute, per se, did not establish the tradition of interdisciplinary research at Illinois. This has been a hallmark of the institution since our founding. Illinois has always been a place where boundaries between disciplines were seen as fluid and where collaborations among colleagues of different backgrounds and fields were encouraged and empowered. Whether at the turn of this 20th century, when we were pioneering the idea that sound could be put on film, or the 1950s and 60s, with math educators and engineering coming together, or today where supercomputing and public health aligned. We believe the collaboration that's been engendered is part of what I call the Illinois DNA. It is in our DNA. What the Beckman Institute did was give us a new vision of how to accelerate and foster and incubate collaborations among a broader range of disciplines. Through that model of joint appointment, it drew us together, not completely away from our departments and colleges, but it gave us some second home, where it created a network of collaborative opportunities. What it actually did was to intensify and broaden the range of collaboration that was possible on this campus. Simply put, Beckman Institute gave us new tools, new spaces, new methods, and new horizon to work not in isolation, but in comprehensive collaboration. Again, this may seem routine now, or standard to everybody on campus, and in higher education in general, but at that time, it was new, really new. So it began right here 25 years ago, and after a quarter century, I honestly believe that the Beckman Institute is just fully hitting its stride. It is exciting to imagine what will happen in the next 25 years. So to the Institute, I say congratulations and the best of luck, and hopefully I'll be here in 25 years to see how it progresses. Thank you.
Our next speaker this morning will be the University of Illinois Vice Chancellor for Research, Peter Schiffer. Peter, a condensed matter experimentalist, received his bachelor's degree in physics from Yale University in 1988 and his PhD in physics from Stanford University in 1993. He was professor of physics at Penn State and served as Associate Vice President for Research and Director of Strategic Initiatives at Penn State. Peter moved to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 2012 as Vice Chancellor for Research and Professor of Physics. Peter.
Thanks, Art. It's a true pleasure to be with you today as we celebrate this really historic occasion. As both the Chancellor and the Provost noted, when the Beckman Institute was founded, the very idea of such an interdisciplinary place was pretty much unheard of. The bold idea of creating an interdisciplinary institute at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign has now turned into a research powerhouse that is the Beckman Institute at 25 years old. The research themes themselves are visionary and cut across boundaries that wouldn't have been imagined 25 years ago. There are topics such as biological intelligence, human-computer intelligent interaction, integrative imaging. These were bold, bold concepts 25 years ago and still are today. And the impact of 25 years of the Beckman Institute on campus here has been lasting. The Beckman postdoctoral fellows, the graduate students, the hundreds of undergraduate students who are walking these halls and have walked these halls with experience in the Beckman research projects have gone on and now are creating their own research groups and their own portfolios, impacting academia and industries all around the world. It's truly profound what has happened here over the last 25 years. Now, scientific discovery is usually not limited by imagination. There are all sorts of bright ideas on campus and on every campus, but it is often constrained by the infrastructure and the mundane day-to-day tasks that go along with conducting research. And what the founding of this institute and the generosity of the Beckmans allowed was an unheard of level of administrative and technical support that had not existed for interdisciplinary research up to that point. That support and this spectacular facility really created something new and exciting and allowed for collaborations and connections that just would not have happened otherwise. These collaborations and connections led to new discoveries. Those new discoveries led to tremendous leveraging of the initial investment through many, many millions of dollars of federal and corporate and other private support that continues on to this day, and is something that we can all be very proud of. Maybe most importantly, the support has allowed for real discoveries that have made a difference in our day-to-day lives. It's difficult to single out very many of them, because difficult to single out a few of them. I could go on all day on many of them. But just a few examples. Sushant, who's sitting over there, is working with faculty in human community health, psychology, food science, and human nutrition to study the effects of environmental toxins commonly found in plastics and household products, and how they affect human health and child development. Steve Bopart, who's created a handheld tool that uses non-invasive method to image tissue during surgery, eliminating the need for multiple surgeries to ensure that tumors have been removed properly. And through collaborations with folks on campus here and with physicians at Carle Hospital, has started a new company based on this technology that is commercializing the product and going to make it broadly available. And there's so many, many other examples. I could stay up here all day telling you about the wonderful things that have come out of the research at the Beckman Institute. These are really just a few highlights. And the exciting thing is that the work is ongoing. The Beckman's investment is continuing to pay off. And I can almost guarantee that Beckman Research, Beckman Institute at Urbana-Champaign Research will have an impact on your life, on the life of every single person in this room, and probably everyone we know in the years to come. We're deeply, deeply grateful to the Beckmans and to everyone who has made this institution possible and who has brought it to this point and this historic occasion 25 years in. And like so many, many others here, I'm looking forward to seeing all the exciting things that will happen in the next 25 years. Thanks for being with us.
Stan Ikenberry, the former president of the University of Illinois and of the American Council of Education, teaches courses on higher education policy and leadership and serves as an advisor to doctoral students. In addition, he holds an appointment as senior fellow in the university's Institute of Government and Public Affairs and is co-director of the Forum for the Future of Public Education. His current areas of interest include higher education assessment, and I learned a bit more about that last night, public attitudes about higher education, and privatization of public universities. Dr. Ikenberry was president at the University of Illinois when the Beckman Institute was founded in 1989 and was involved in the proposal to the Beckmans regarding the founding of the Institute. Stan.
Good morning. Great universities need big dreams, and if they don't have them, first of all, they can't become great, and if they don't continue to have them, they can't remain great. So it's not surprising we were dreaming big dreams, but many big dreams die a-borning. They're a fleeting press release. Other big dreams, I can tell you from personal experience, turn out not to be a dream, but a nightmare. But in this case, the dream was a delightful dream. It came to life, and here we are 25 years later celebrating the dream. In some ways, it was Dr. Beckman's dream, and in other ways, it was our dream. The great minds that put this creative design together, but ultimately it was fused into a single dream. The contours were fairly clear at that time. Mort was basking in the fact that they were showing a triangle up here that he put put together at the time that began to try to conceptualize what all of this would look like. But from my perspective, there were really 4 dimensions to the dream. One related to a physical facility. The architects were with us last night. I don't know whether they're with us today, but a very stand up and take a bow. After 25 years, it's still a lively, creative, stimulating building, but it was designed at Arnold's urging and in accord with the dream to unite people, bring them together, make it not only possible to come together, but you couldn't avoid coming together. Deliberately, organizational structures created, as you mentioned, to empower and enable scholars and to do their work, and policies that were different and more flexible than we'd ever had before. And we had some of those at the beginning, and Ted Brown invented some along the way. But together, they empowered bright people. And 25 years later now, we see the incredible results. I think the point I'd like to make is the Beckman Institute lifted, energized the entire Urbana-Champaign campus. It has served and it continues to serve as a magnet to recruit and retain talented people. I can't tell you how many times I've encountered a faculty member or a graduate student who explained to me that after asking him or her, why are they at the University of Illinois, one pivotal reason was the Beckman Institute. But beyond that, the Beckman gift marked a new era at the University of Illinois. It was sited on an old baseball field. And as a result, it began to unite the campus on an axis, north-south axis, that now connects not just the Beckman Institute, and incidentally, the electrical engineering building that we are going to celebrate today was actually sited at that time when the Beckman Institute was sited. But the axis now connects the north and the south campus, really running through the Granger Engineering Library, the Illini Union, the Follinger Auditorium, and all the way to the Stock Pavilion on the far end. So both symbolically and functionally, the Beckman Institute helped us bring the campus together. And it changed our psyche, which was very much needed at the time. At the time, the $40 million gift, augmented by the $10 million support from the state, and Mort will tell you more about that, attracted attention from coast to coast, particularly from our AAU colleagues from other major research universities across the country, and especially our dear colleagues at Caltech, who thought this check was actually misdirected in the mail somehow, and the wrong zip code was included or something. But it changed the way we thought about ourselves, and it changed the way others thought about us, and we stood taller. And by the way, went on to conclude the first billion-dollar campaign in our history. And incidentally, you're right, Phyllis, it was, at the time, the largest gift ever given, not only in any public university, but it was among the largest gifts ever given to any university in the country at that time, public or private. So what's to be learned? More than anything, the founding of the Beckman Institute, I think, teaches us the importance of talented, dedicated people. Mort Weir, Ted Brown, Carl Hess, Bill Greeno, and so many others. Nights, weekends, draft after draft, they crafted an innovative, imaginative, powerful vision. And without that, what we celebrate today would never have been possible. The success of the Beckman also teaches us the importance of continuity of leadership. And a very special thank you is due Ted Brown. By agreeing to serve as the Institute's first director, Ted provided the continuity of this vision that went from a vision, in fact, to a practical reality. We pleaded, but it was at Dr. Beckman's direct urging, along with Ted's loyalty, that turned the trick. And of course, all of us, this would have been for naught in the absence of a quite remarkable man, Arnold O. Beckman, who was the most visionary, selfless, engaged, demanding philanthropist I've ever met. He was 80 years old when we first met, and I was just slightly better than half his age at the time, and yet he ran my wheels off on his periodic visits. He'd grown up in a very small town, Cullum, Illinois, and the son of a blacksmith. He attended lab school at Bloomington Normal, and on Saturdays he traveled to Urbana-Champaign with his high school teacher, and both of them sat side by side and they studied chemistry at the University of Illinois. He completed his baccalaureate and master's degrees here and ventured on west to Caltech for his PhD, where he never really left Caltech. He served for years as a quite productive faculty member, and then for quite a number of years as chairman of the Board of Trustees. But he was simply a remarkable, brilliant, scientific and corporate genius, and yet he was in every way a humble and selfless human being. However, as others will confirm, you can't understand Arnold without grasping the role of Mabel, his wife and soulmate. Arnold relied on Mabel's advice, valued her judgment, and eventually I would begin to understand that. When I visited Arnold in his California office, I often looked around and I saw proposals sitting on his desk and credenza carrying the seals of other universities. You know, Stanford and Caltech and Berkeley and Princeton and Harvard. So I sensed very early on that we weren't alone. And so on each trip coming back, when Judy and I visited the Beckmans, we received this incredibly warm reception, and yet each time we departed without closure and a firm yes. And I remember one day we had had a lovely lunch at the Pacific Club that Arnold enjoyed very much, and we'd returned back to the offices, and Judy and Mabel and I were standing in the parking lot while Arnold went to park the car. And in the warm California sun, or maybe it was jet lag, I'm not sure, but I must have looked kind of bedraggled and dejected or whatever. And Mabel moved just ever so subtly closer to my side. And she put her arm around my shoulder and she said, "Stan, don't worry. I've read every single one of those proposals. Illinois is best." Bingo, no more jet lag. My fondest memories of Arnold are of him sitting at the piano, and we saw a photo of that last evening that returned all of those memories. But sitting at the piano in the Beckman Institute atrium at a faculty gathering, in the president's house he played. Every place Arnold went that he found a piano, he was likely to sit down and play. And when he played, he didn't play like this, he played like this. He looked up and out to the left and played by ear, sometimes with his eyes closed, as he did when he was a young kid in Bloomington, playing for the silent movies that were running at that time. He was simply a remarkable man. I think if he were here today, and I'm sure he is in spirit, he'd be remarkably proud of what's been accomplished over the last 25 years, and I think he would be incredibly optimistic about the time that lies ahead. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that very inspiring set of reminiscence, and we couldn't have learned this information from anyone else other than our next speaker, who will tell us a bit more. Mort Weir served as Chancellor of the University of Illinois from 1988 to 1993. He was born and raised in Canton, Illinois. Dr. Weir received his bachelor's degree from Knox College and a master's and PhD from the University of Texas at Austin in experimental child psychology. At Illinois, he held numerous academic roles, including professor of psychology, head of the Department of Psychology, vice chancellor and vice president for academic affairs, and chancellor from 88 to 93. Mort was one of the guiding forces, along with Stan, Ted Brown, and Carl Hess, and Bill Greeno, with regard to the establishment of the Beckman Institute. Mort.
Thank you, Art. It's good to be here. I'm really pleased to be a part of this 25th anniversary celebration for a couple of reasons. First, as I don't have to tell you this institute has been a resounding success with an enviable track record since its inception, really. The second reason is because I didn't think I'd live long enough to see the 25th anniversary. So it's particularly fitting, I think, that we're celebrating with a research symposium highlighting the former Institute postdoctoral fellows, because education and research were the cornerstones of Arnold Beckman's concept for the Institute. The whole thing began a bit over 30 years ago when we learned that Arnold and Mabel Beckman might be interested in making a significant gift to the University of Illinois. A number of people at that time set to work in considerable secrecy, actually, to lay the plans for a proposal that might interest the Beckmans. Two committees were appointed, one in the biological and behavioral sciences, the other in the physical and engineering sciences. They were asked, that is, the committees were asked to dream about the sort of program that would represent the cutting edge in their disciplines, something that they really believed would make a difference not just here but everywhere. And at that time we hinted that there could be a major donor interested in funding a research center, but we didn't divulge the donor's identity. Well, after considerable work, when the reports came in, it was clear that something very interesting was in the air, because both of these committees proposed a set of programs that would encompass a range of activities from the micro to the macro scale. The two proposals fit so well together that we didn't have to choose between them. We were worried about that, by the way. How could we say yes to one and no to another? But we didn't need to. They were, it was easy to meld them into the original concept of the Institute. When the concept was proposed to Arnold, it was clear from his response that he was also interested. We contemplated asking him for a gift of $50 million, but the proposal we presented in our conversation with him carried no mention of price, no price tag whatsoever. Well, he looked at the proposal, we discussed it for a while, and he said something like, this would amount to $50 million. Well, I was amazed, and I was also pleased that he didn't seem to flinch at the amount. Well, he and Mabel considered our request, and at that time, Governor Thompson, governor at the time, through Stan's intervention, agreed to visit Arnold in California and to stress the importance of the proposal for the whole state of Illinois. He hoped to talk Dr. Beckman into making the gift, but I think to his surprise, Arnold turned the tables by proposing that he would make a gift of $40 million if the state would do the remaining 10. Well, a deal was struck, thank God, and the governor came back and reported to Stan a successful visit, and I think he also had a new sense of the appreciation for Arnold's shrewdness. But there's a footnote here, a little twist. Stan might admit to this if you asked. He had prompted Arnold in advance to hit the governor up for a part of the cost. And then Arnold reported back to Stan that he had been successful. Once the building was complete, the original programs in place, and so on, the success was by no means ensured. Would we be able to engender and sustain real multi and interdisciplinary work? Would traditional colleges and departments adapt to having some of the best and brightest of their faculty and students working in a location outside their jurisdictions? Would the facility and its programs be a magnet for outstanding researchers from around the globe? Well, these and many more questions bedeviled Ted and others who were planning the Institute's original structure and programming. And even some of the scientists that served the Institute's external advisory committee warned us that it was going to be very difficult, and there was a significant likelihood that the concept would not succeed. Well, it did. The Beckman Institute has in fact been an amazing success, thanks to the outstanding people it has attracted, both in the laboratory and in its administration. Arnold Beckman was exceedingly proud of what was happening here in the decade or so that he was around and able to witness the Institute's early progress. I wish that Arnold and Mabel could be with us today so we could thank them personally for their generosity and their foresight. And if they were here with us, I'm positive that they would let all of you here, all of you who've been involved with the Institute, know just how well you have done and how pleased they are that their gift has borne such spectacular fruit. So I thank you, all of you who've been a part of the Beckman Institute, and I thank them, the Beckmans, in the hope that somehow they are aware of our gratitude, and I look forward to speaking again at the 50th.
Our next speaker is the first of several speakers. We have all of the former directors here. Ted Brown is the founding director of the Beckman Institute, as we've already heard. Ted received his PhD from Michigan State University in 1956. We won't hold that against him. He has been a faculty member in the Illinois Department of Chemistry since '56, and he assumed emeritus status in January 1994. During 1980 to '86, he served as Vice Chancellor for Research and Dean of the Graduate College. And in '87, he got his best job at the University of Illinois when he became the founding director, and I think we're all lucky that he did, of the Beckman Institute, and served in that role through 1993. Ted was instrumental in the organization of the Institute around broadly defined research themes, and I remember those early days because I was here, and it was a really exciting time. I think it still is. Ted's current interests are in the cognitive, philosophical, and social aspects of the scientific enterprise. In 2003, he authored Making Truth, Metaphor and Science, which explores the essential roles of metaphorical reasoning in science. He has also written on the authority and moral authority of science and society, Imperfect Oracle, the authority and moral authority of science and society, which was published in 2009 by Pennsylvania State University Press. A book on the origins of the Beckman Institute, which is available here, Bridging Divides, was published in 2009 by the University of Illinois Press. Ted, please.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me, Art. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Like a couple of others have mentioned, I regard myself as pretty lucky to be here, actually, much less celebrating this great event. Let me start by saying that I really think I speak on behalf of both Bill Greeno and Carl Hess this morning. Bill passed away, as many of you know, in December. Carl was not able to make it here today, but those two people were the two people that I recruited to chair those two committees that were mentioned earlier, and they did tremendous jobs. I mean, the sacrifices that they made in putting together those proposals that Mort spoke of were many, and after the building was under construction all the way through, they served tremendously to make the Beckman Institute the success that it was. And it was just because they were great scientists themselves and had therefore a great deal of moral leadership to lend to this enterprise. Well, you know, it's been 25 years, and every time I come in this building, I get this warm, wonderful feeling about the place. It's a beautiful place. And I think also of Arnold and Mabel, who made it all possible. This was my home for a long time. Before the building was completed, we had our offices in the basement. It was funny, we'd come in the morning, and the wastebaskets had mice in them. They would jump in the wastebaskets, and after a while, everybody got used to the mice, and then I moved upstairs. I thought, wow, we're really classy now. We're on the main level. So it was my home for many years. The whole project started in 1983, so although I became the director in whatever that was, 87, I'd been working on this project for quite a long time. So this is an opportunity to celebrate the origins of the Beckman Institute. And, you know, it would be tempting to go back and tell stories about those long ago days, but I really don't have the time to do that. I'd like to start, really, with 25 years ago, the inaugural event, which was celebrated in April of 1989. This was a very exciting time. The Urbana-Champaign campus, the Champaign-Urbana community was very excited about the Beckman Institute. Before the inaugural opening, we had open houses, and it was the middle of winter. We had thousands of people from town come over to the open house in spite of the bitterly cold weather. And so as part of the inaugural event, we had a dinner in the atrium, and it was a grand affair. We had many nice dignitaries there. This picture shows Dr. Beckman explaining some of the finer points of who knows what to our esteemed professor, or President Ikenberry. The person just off screen there with the glasses is Gerald Edelman, and I'm going to say a little more about him in a moment. So the next day we had our inaugural event, and there were many dignitaries on the stage. As you see, we recognize some of them. Bill Greeno, back of the forsythia over there, next to Mort. And the person speaking is George Fisher, who is the CEO of Motorola Corporation. So it was a grand affair. And Arnold spoke, of course, and he said in his inimitable way, "Thank you very much for exceeding all my expectations." Arnold had a way of thanking everybody for accepting the generosity that Mabel and he bestowed upon us. I've looked back on that event quite a lot over the years, and I've come to realize that we were pretty giddy at the excitement of the moment. We didn't have a clue as to how hard it was going to be to make a Beckman Institute that was truly interdisciplinary. Some people mentioned, a moment ago, someone mentioned some of these impediments. I think Mort said this. The Beckman Institute is an unusual entity. It doesn't fall in the normal organization of an academic institution such as Illinois. And although we were inclined to be interdisciplinary here, we didn't really know exactly how to do it. So we had a lot to work on and a lot of problems to solve. I'd like to go back to that inaugural event. again, well, let me just point out this slide. This is an important slide in one respect. This is a picture of Arnold and Mabel with my assistant at the time, Ann Riley. And I want to point out that that Mabel is in a wheelchair, and you can see that she's not well. She was not well at all at that time, and in fact, her daughter Pat was angry with Arnold, and maybe with me too a little bit, for encouraging Mabel to come all the way from California for this event. She thought Mabel would not be up to it, but she did want to come, and she was here. And only 2 months later, she passed away. So so let's go back again to this inaugural lecture by Gerald Edelman. He received the Nobel Prize in 1972. Many of you know of his work. He discovered the structures of antibodies and their modes of interaction, and then went on to discover cell adhesion molecules. Both of these were one Nobel laureate worthy events, but he received the prize for the antibodies work. And then he decided to change his direction, and he took on something really challenging. He sort of chose the question, how does the brain give rise to the mind? A question of enormous complexity, not a simple challenge at all. And it formed the topic of his Beckman Institute inaugural lecture, which was entitled Neurobiology and the Coming Scientific Revolution. This is a picture of Gerald Edelman about at the time that he gave this lecture. He called his proposal, his approach, neural Darwinism. And it's a controversial model. He spent 35 years of his life working on this, and it has some exceptional characteristics, and it's of course a problem so complex that no one person is going to answer the question that he posed for himself in his lifetime. It's interesting that Edelman passed away in May of this year, just 25 years and 1 month after delivering the inaugural lecture here, and only a few months after Bill Greeno's death. Now, Carl and Bill and I were the ones who chose Edelman as the inaugural speaker, and we wanted someone who had truly interdisciplinary interests and who was an outstanding scientist. And it made sense to choose Edelman in part because Edelman's model, his sort of neural Darwinism model, was based upon the notion of plasticity in the brain. And Bill Greeno had been, of course, one of the founding figures in this whole notion of plasticity in the brain. And so it was consistent with one of the major themes of the Institute. Now, the essence of Edelman's theory is that there's something called selectionism. His model of the brain differs from some of those that are popular. The notion of the brain as a computer, Edelman argued vociferously that this is not the case. The brain is not a logic machine, it's a selectionist machine. And he had a notion which was called selectionism, which permeated his work on antibodies and which permeated all of his work on the brain. It's worthwhile now. I was so interested, because this talk of his, to be frank, was not understood by many of the people in the audience. It just wasn't. I mean, even people who were pretty much into neurosciences scratched their heads. It was all full of diagrams and stuff, and he ran little simulations, and there were 1,800 people in a Kramer Center watching this thing, and most of them didn't learn a whole lot from it. And it bothered me, because this was supposed to be signatory of what we were all about. So in preparing for this talk in the last 6 months or so, I've gone back to reading some of his books. He gave up publishing papers and started writing books in his later years. And so he has books called Second Nature and The Nature of Consciousness. And of course, he had a book on neural Darwinism. And I got to this idea of selectionist systems. And this is what... this was the title of his talk. This is what selectionist systems are. And I think, after thinking about this a lot, that actually Edelman was telling us how an interdisciplinary institute should run. Let's look at these selectionist mechanisms and apply them to an institution instead of to the workings of the brain. First of all, that first mechanism, it speaks to the need for generating diversity. It means that we would never be satisfied that we have just the right mixture of people and programs. It's a process of continually looking for new energy, new sources. And of course, this Beckman Fellows Program, which we are celebrating today, was one of the ways in which we tried to institute that idea into the workings of the Beckman Institute, bringing new people in. The second mechanism that we look for mechanisms that sample a changing environment asks us to continuously evaluate what's the Institute doing. We can't be satisfied with how it's going right now. We have to continually ask whether what we're doing comports with the state of science in the world and how we might change it for the better. Are we addressing scientifically and socially important challenges? Are we looking in the right places? So now the Institute has a regular review program, a review process, and it's part of the workings of the Beckman Institute, and it's part of what makes the Beckman Institute special. This was not an easy thing to institute, and I give credit to my successors who worked very hard to make this a part of the Beckman Institute's processes. You know, when people come in the Beckman Institute, we tell them, this is not a tenured place. You come in here because you belong here at the moment, but you're continually evaluated, and at some point along the line, you may be politely asked to move out. And they said, oh yeah, sure. And then 6 years later, they're asked to move out, and they say with horror, what? That can't be. So it becomes a very difficult process to do. And the part of the success of the Beckman Institute is this ability to continually evaluate and change what we're doing. Finally, there's this issue of reallocating available resources. Mechanism 3, how do you differentially apply the resources you have to the most important programs and enforce those, reinforce those at the expense of other good programs which are of less priority? And there, I think we really want to express great appreciation to the Beckman Foundation for its continuing support of the Beckman Institute. If it were not for that infusion of funds from the Beckman from the foundation, which enables the director to make allocations of resources to the programs that are most important and most promising, we couldn't be the Beckman Institute that we are. So, all of these things, of course, these mechanisms are things that require a very active and very courageous administration. This is not a challenge for the faint of heart. We're never able to be satisfied with where we are. We said some wonderful things here this morning about what a great place the Beckman Institute is. I agree with all of that, but I'm thinking, where are we going from here? 25 years in, we're doing well, but where are we going from here? What is the trajectory? We're still looking for that magic spot that is a truly interdisciplinary environment. We're very close to it in many respects, but there are always things that we can learn. And we heard last night from Jerry Galwis about Arnold Beckman's career, and he touched upon many aspects of that career which really are, again, reflect these three mechanisms, right? I mean, how do you pick the right thing to do? How do you meet the challenges that come along as soon as you make a decision like that? How do you overcome those, and how do you move on to the next thing? So Arnold has been not a great model, not only for the reasons of all the wonderful support that he's given us, but also in his own life, in his own work, he's shown us how to be interdisciplinary in a great sense. You know, that Arnold Beckman made that statement at the inauguration that that he thanks us for exceeding his expectations, and I think sometimes it's hard to forget. It's hard to remember that it is truly something that we do give to the donor, in a sense, in a case like this. We gave the Beckmans something important by being successful here, and it's a way in which we responded, and I think it's it's to me consoling to know that Arnold and Mabel both. Mabel was not of Illinois. You know, she grew up in New Jersey. Arnold had his roots here in Illinois. But both Arnold and Mabel are at rest in their resting place in Cullom, Illinois, which is only 70 miles away. So I think we are on a roll in the Beckman Institute, And I have no expectations. I don't, you guys are not realists. You're not going to be here 25 years from now. Well, but I am very grateful for the fact that I'm here today. And I thank you all very much for the time you've given me. Bye.
During this time, he helped to further define and organize the research themes at the Beckman Institute, which enhance both the reputation and external funding for research at the Beckman Institute. His research interests are in chemical physics and physical chemistry. He's a professor emeritus in chemistry at Illinois and is professor emeritus for the Center of Advanced Study. Jiri.
Thanks for the kind invitation to participate in the 25th anniversary of the Beckman Institute. I must say that it is wonderful to be back in the Beckman Institute, to find it thriving. When I became a director of the Beckman Institute in 1993, the Institute was well established, but the overall research mission was not well defined. Rather, it was diffused over a diverse set of programs. In 1994, based on the Institute's research areas of greatest strength, these programs were focused around the three main research themes that persist today. That's quite remarkable. Biological intelligence, human-computer intelligent interactions, and molecular and electronic nanostructure. It was not always very simple to establish these research teams. This move had significant positive consequences. It led to major increase in funding, promoted the faster recognition of the Institute on the national and international scene, prevented fragmentation of resources, simplified management issues, and enable the dynamic nature of the multidisciplinary center to thrive. A very important benefit of the Beckman Institute for the university and the USA academic enterprise was, and still is, the ability to attract first-class postdoctoral fellows, both from the USA and abroad. This is amply demonstrated by the excellent scientific program later today. I still remember fondly several speakers, including Slava Rodkin and Srinivas Akela. In addition, the Beckman Institute helps in the recruitment of new faculty. I am sure that number of prospective new faculty members still accept UI offers if guaranteed membership in the Beckman Institute. Among the new research directions I find most impressive is the campus-wide strategic initiative, which will take advantage of the diverse expertise of the UI faculty under the leadership of the Beckman Institute. Particularly the first strategic initiative, Habits, Health Attitude, Biology, Information, Technology, Society, will be important in years to come as it addresses the needs of our society. I am certain that this positive trend of interdisciplinary cooperation will continue. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Jiri. Pierre Wiltzius is the Susan and Bruce Worster Dean of Science and Professor of Physics at UC Santa Barbara. Prior to his arrival at UC Santa Barbara, Pierre was the director of the Beckman Institute and professor of materials science and engineering and physics at the University of Illinois from 2001 to 2008. Prior to that, he joined Lucent Technologies, or Bell Labs, in 1984 as member of technical staff and later became the director of semiconductor physics research. Pierre served as the third director of the Beckman Institute, and under his tenure, the integrative imaging theme was added to the Beckman portfolio. Pierre.
Good morning, and thank you, Art, and all of you for inviting me to be here. It's wonderful. It fills my heart. When I walked in this morning, I took an immediate left to go to my office. Then I caught myself and I thought, okay, this is not my office anymore, as much as I wish it were. So, and what flooded back was all the wonderful research that has happened here and keeps happening. And there are so many examples of what I'm proud of that happened under my tenure. Integrative imaging is one example, the self-healing materials, and so on and so forth. So I had prepared a speech to talk about that. But the good news about being towards the end of the program is that a lot of things have been said already, so I'm not going to give you that speech. But what I want to talk about is just from the heart and what it really means being in the Beckman Institute and what it represents. And what it represents to me is it's more than research. It's more than all the great things that happened. But it is the people. And that came back to me when I met all the friends from years past, and we hug and we reminisce, and it's just so beautiful. And that is something that I think is very uniquely Beckman Institute. It is, one of my mentors told me once when I talked about him, about building an administration or building an organization. He says, stop. You don't build organizations. You build a culture. You build a culture, and a culture is people. And that's I think what Ted was referring to, right? This is about finding the right people that fit into this environment. This is not the right environment for everybody. But for those that it is the right environment, they really thrive, and they make it so much more than the sum of the pieces. So I just want to, importantly, an environment is indeed, it's a house, right? It's a place where people meet. It's a place where people have to meet and have to interact, and that comes to the notion also of family. And this is something that Harry Gray, the current chair of the Beckman board, always has been telling us. You are part of the Beckman family. And as a family, we live together, we fight together, but we always remember that it's for the greater good. And that's something that I really learned so much when I was here as a director for 7 years, and that I've tried to carry on to places where I'm now. So let me put on my other hat right now, and that is the one of being the chair of the Scientific Advisory Committee for the Beckman Foundation, which is a committee that helps the Beckman board try to keep its compass, find its way going forward, and staying true to Arnold Beckman's philosophy. So there are two things that I want to talk to you about. And one is, so when I, as a dean, when I send emails to faculty, very often they don't read them because what comes from the dean can't be good. So I trick them into putting to the subject lines $signs. They always read those emails and they respond. So here's the email with a $sign in it. As an institution, actually, let me back up. One of the proud things that I think Jiri set up was the postdoctoral fellows program, which is, and many of them are here today, which was one of my favorite group of people in the Institute, because they were really, they had so much, brought so much dynamicism to the Institute. And they, of course, we'll hear from them a little later. So this program, I think, is highly successful, and as a matter of fact, is so successful that we convinced, the Scientific Advisory Committee convinced the Beckman Foundation just during the last year to kind of emulate that at the foundation level. So it was just rolled out as a program, a postdoctoral fellows program, that is by invitation, very much like the Beckman Young Investigators program. It's by invitation, and you as an institution are invited to participate in this as well. So this is an opportunity for you to send in your best and strongest applications for a postdoctoral fellowship. This is very much in the same spirit as the Institute's postdoctoral fellowship. It is an independent yet mentored postdoc. And it is very much meant to be that stepping stone towards an academic tenure track position. And these will be the leaders of the academy in years to come. So that's a new program, and I really encourage you to participate vigorously. As you know, the foundation has four ways of contributing resources. One we heard already about, that is contributing to the institutes, the 5 institutes and centers, Beckman centers. Another one is the Beckman Young Investigators Program, which is very prestigious and has created huge numbers of highly successful faculty across the country. It started in 1991, and so has been going for over 20 years now, and keeps going strong. Then there's the Beckman Scholars Program, which is geared towards undergraduate education, and that also, I think, the University of Illinois has been several times the recipient of one of those. And there's a newer program which is geared toward, it's called the Beckman Arduous Vision Program, which is geared towards, in particular, supporting research in eye diseases and vision. As Jerry Gold told us last night at dinner, the foundation is actually doing remarkably well. And that means also remarkably well in terms of being able to keep growing and reinventing itself. So the Scientific Advisory Committee has been tasked to come up with 2 or 3 big new ideas of what the foundation could be doing going forward. And when I looked around the room here, I thought this is just too good an opportunity. There's so much intellectual firepower in this room that I can't resist, but enlist you all to send me your big ideas. We are collecting them, the Scientific Advisory Committee, in terms of what huge opportunities there are for the Beckman Foundation going forward, keeping itself renewed and reinvigorated and at the state of the art and at the forefront. So yeah, my email is readily available. It's not hidden. Send me your ideas, and I will make sure that we discuss them amongst the Scientific Advisory Committee. And I hope you will come up with something revolutionary. So that's my speech. And 5 years ago, when I was here, I made the analogy to our daughter Amy, who was born in 1989. So it's easy to keep track of how old the institute is. And Amy was 20. She was in college, kind of trying to find her way, changed her major every semester from early childhood psychology to philosophy. Whatever good teacher she had, professor, that was going to be her major. Amy graduated. She's gainfully employed. She gets a paycheck. She has health insurance. Life is good. But I also keep telling her when we talk, this is not the end, right? Just stay young. And that's what I want to leave you with. The Beckman Institute has just started, right? Keep thinking big. Keep thinking bold. And by all means, be rambunctious. Congratulations.
Thanks, Pierre. Tamir Basar received his bachelor's degree from Robert College, Istanbul in 1969 and a PhD in engineering and applied sciences from Yale in '72. After stints at Harvard University, Marmara Research Institute in Turkey, and Bogozic, you're going to have to pronounce that for me, Tamir, University in Istanbul, he joined the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 1981, where he is with the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. He's currently the newly appointed director of the Center for Advanced Study at the University of Illinois and carries the academic title of Swanland Endowed Chair. Tamir served as Beckman Director from 2008 to 2010. Tamir.
So I think it's still morning, so I'll say good morning. And there's, as Pierre said, there is always the danger, if you are the last speaker, of being preempted. Well, I still think that there are a few things in my text, prepared text, which will be of interest to the audience and which will capture this momentous occasion. So I first want to congratulate the Institute on this 25th anniversary. In fact, Pierre mentioned what happened 5 years ago, and what happened was the 20th anniversary. And this occasion brings back memories of 5 years ago, when I played some role in the celebration of the 20th birthday of the Institute. It was actually to the week, if not to the day, 5 years ago. I remember standing on this very podium, first opening on October 5th. We had a Nobel laureate in the evening as the opening distinguished lecturer, and then closing in the afternoon of October the 7th, this 20th Anniversary Symposium, talking about all the wonderful things that the Institute and its researchers had accomplished in the fairly short time span, if you think of it in the life of an institute, of 2 decades. And the huge opportunities, I had talked about the huge opportunities that lie for the future. As it was for the 20th one, I see today's occasion and the symposium itself as a celebration of the incredible past achievements of the Beckman Institute, and as a recognition of the diligent efforts of hundreds of faculty, staff, and students which have produced leading-edge interdisciplinary research, crossing boundaries and breaking barriers. I also see today, as several other speakers have also indicated, today's occasion as an opportunity to create a platform to launch and carve a path to the future for at least another quarter of a century of trendsetting research. And this has also been mentioned that hopefully 25 years from now, a quarter of a century from now, many of you will be here and witnessing what the Beckman Institute has accomplished in the years from now until 25 years from now. I find that it actually gives me great pleasure when I look at the program to see presentations by former Beckman postdoctoral fellows. And as I view the postdoctoral fellows program, where each fellow spends 3 years in residence, attached to one or more research groups, but otherwise with very little strings attached, to be one of the unique programs that add incredible value to the interdisciplinary landscape of this institute, and making it diverse and forward-looking. And it's an investment, a very wise investment into the future. Now, coming back to the meaning of this anniversary, as we have heard some 30 years ago in the early to mid-1980s, a unique vision and a bold one for that time led to the birth of a truly interdisciplinary activity on our campus with the creation of this institute. That vision was to bring several disparate research communities on both sides of Green Street, and in fact, it removed the divide of Green Street, or at least started the process of removing the divide of the Green Street. So it was to bring these disparate research communities under one roof to work on problems each community in isolation would not be able to tackle. This would enrich the research landscape on campus and create something individual communities would not be able to. Well, over its 25-year history, the Beckman Institute has shown that this vision was right on the mark, creating an environment where faculty and students from different parts of campus, particularly from engineering, psychology, chemical and life sciences, and more recently, I was pleased to see also social sciences, can get excited about interdisciplinary research and participate on joint projects. In this mode, throughout its 25-year history, researchers at the Beckman Institute have been at the forefront of forging collaborations across disciplinary lines to generate new knowledge, new science, and create new technology, while also contributing to the educational mission of the Institute and of the campus by mentoring undergraduate and graduate students and postdocs in an environment enriched by the culture of interdisciplinarity. the research landscape on our campus is quite different today than it was 25, 30 years ago, and Ted Brown has already alluded to that, how it was when this Beckman Institute was being conceptualized 30 years ago. And this difference in the research landscape is in no small part due to the presence of the Beckman Institute and the interdisciplinary culture it has successfully built and infected the rest of the campus with. The magnitude of the past achievements drives and calls for higher aspirations and expectations for the next quarter of a century. And I hope, as Arnold Beckman has indicated in the inaugural opening of the Institute, that these expectations actually will be surpassed by the achievements and accomplishments of the next 25 years. And I very much to see the world-class trend-setting research to continue, and I would say without any borders. Thank you, and congratulations again.
Well, thank you, Tamir, and I'd like to start another round of applause for all of our speakers today, this morning thus far.